Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're going to be talking about our unique setup here where we have miners on the sides since we had more power than room. We're talking about how we handle that situation where the temperature goes up outside that has an impact on our miners on here on the right hand side. You see those miners there, those 5 rows. So they heat up when the temperature goes up. That brings our amps up and we might start tripping the 600 amp panels. So we're talking about how we go around that problem and at the same time keeping everything running. So if you think that's interesting, hit like, subscribe, hit the bell, go to cryptollc.org. If you're looking to set up an ASIC mining farm, you want to set up a farm such as this one here. For all our future farms, we're actually doing 6 rows now, so we're not going to have any miners on the side. This is just for this one container here. So that should not be a problem for any other future build outs. Or if you're looking to set up a GPU mining farm, go to cryptollc.org. We also sell GPUs and ASICs right now. Is the best time to jump in, set up a farm. Who knows how much more trillions Biden's going to print? Another 5 trillion, another 10 trillion, another 100 trillion. That crazy old man is going to print to infinity. So if you want to protect your wealth, invest in crypto mining. All right, so here's our setup. Oh, and before we get started, Bitcoin saves your wealth. Jesus Christ saves your soul. All right, now let's start the video. So, you see these miners here on the side? They're all running. We have a big mess. You can see this mess right here. And the reason for that is because we had more watts left over, but we ran out of room. What I mean by room is the side over here. This right-hand side, you can see a lot of these. Basically, every single slot is taken. And the build out's already done. So rebuilding everything is obviously a waste of time. So we had more watts left over, we decided to put them on the side. But what happens? This has a negative impact when outside it gets hot, right? So what happens is, as it gets hot outside, these miners, they're always blowing hot air, right, out the exhaust. Here's the exhaust. They're always blowing hot air out the exhaust. This exhaust then travels and gets sucked in by the miners. Right? So that's an issue. That's an issue because when it's hot outside, then the chip's temperature brings it up. The fans spin faster. We use more watts than the miners should be using. So let's say the miner's rated at 3250 or rated at 31 or 3000 watts. We're actually going to be going up 100, 200 watts more than what it's rated at. And because of that, our load on the system goes up. Now, when it's cold outside, and what I mean by cold is like 60 degrees Fahrenheit or less, then this is not an issue because it is not enough to heat up the miners. Even though the exhaust is blowing on the miners are still fine because, because it is so cold outside, it doesn't really matter. But today's video is what happens or what do we do when it's hot outside? So here's the setup. We already loaded these miners evenly. You can see we have like BA on it, AC and stuff like that. Basically signifying which conduit is loaded on what legs. So this one is balanced, right? We're still adding more miners over there. You can see we have some empty miners here. We're waiting for some breakers to come in, and we're gonna then plug these guys in. You can see 2 over there, 2 over there, 2 over there, 2, 4, 6, and then we added one up here at the top. So, this is what happens. As that load increases, our amps go up, 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 goes past 600, like 20, 30, 40, and then trips the breaker. So these panels are at 600 amps. Let me go over here and show you guys a breaker. So they're at 600 amps. And if you go past like 630, 640, it starts tripping. So how do we solve this problem? First of all, we measure the load at different outside temperatures. So right now, this thing is loaded and it is at 600 amps. So that's good. So right now it is 70 degrees outside. So at 70 degrees, our panel here, number 3, panel number 3, here's a 600 amp breaker. This breaker number 3 got the 3 phases. So this is A, B, C. This is a C phase. So C phase is at 600 amps. So that's good. So we write down, hey, 600 amps, that's good. Then we measure B, then we measure A, A, B, C, or whatever. We also measure the rest of these, and we write down the temperatures. So we say at 70 degrees, what was the load on P1, P2, P3, P4, and P5? What was the load? We make sure that the load is all below, or at least not tripping is the most important. So at least it's not tripping. So right now it's at 600 amp, it's fine. Now, as it goes to 610, it's still okay. It's not going to trip at 610. Goes to 620, it's still okay. It's not going to trip. We already checked them all. It's all fine. Copper's fine. Everything's fine. No problem at all. It's when you get to, because these are 100% rated, actually. This is not like aluminum. This is real copper. See that right there? Real copper. So it's all rated good. Everything handles out just fine. And we've been doing this for years, actually. But when you get to really, really high, like 630, right? Then you need to start turning miners off. So at that point, we write down, say at 75 degrees, it was okay. Then at 80 degrees, we actually had some let's say P1, P2, and P3 had like 630, right? So we say, okay, what was it at? 630 on A, B, C was okay, right? Then we had B and C had 630, but A was okay. So what we do is we write down what legs were overloading. Then we look up what miner is loaded on that leg. Let me go show you. We'll look up what miner was loaded on that leg. Then, when we have that information, we can then use that to turn off or to put to sleep the miners that are loaded on those legs. So as we go over here, you can see this conduit right here is loaded on B and A. See that right there? B and A. That one down there is loaded on A and C. So then we take, okay, this guy's A and C, that's going up to here. So we know that 07, 6R07 is loaded on A and C. And then we know, hey, it's at 630, at 80 degrees. We need to turn off or put to sleep miner number 7. And that's what we do. We put it to sleep, then we recheck the load on the panels. We see that the panels are good now. So then we keep that information saved, that at 80 degrees, I need to turn off miner number 7 on the 6th row, which is that's what we call this row right here, the side. We turned it off on the 6th, then we turned it off, let's say, a miner on that panel, a miner on that panel, a miner on the other panel, and so on. So we turn everything, we turn those couple of miners off. Then as it gets like 85, 90, 100 degrees, then we turn off more and more and more and more and more. We keep all that saved. That way in the future, let's say a day later, again, it's 85. So we know at 85, we need to turn off another couple of miners on those same exact panels and the same exact gear, right? On that same transformer. And this way we can keep everything loaded, nothing ever trips, and we have maximum terahashes. We have maximum, actually we're in the petahashes. We have maximum petahashes. Now for this container here, this container is a little bit different. So this is the very first container we built out for our client here, the very, very first one. And we made a small error in how we placed the intakes. So the intakes here, you can see we have one louver, second louver, third louver, right? Then over here we have panels, all these panels. And then a louver there on that side, right? So this might seem to be okay, except it is a huge, well not a huge, it is a problem when it gets hot outside, when it gets like 80, 90 Fahrenheit. So what happens is the airflow from these louvers to these miners is good, it's fine. But on this, in this area right here, across these panels, right over here, these guys have less air because basically everything's being used up on that louver over there, all those miners using that louver. And these three louvers are feeding these miners here. So those miners are fine. These left-hand side miners and right-hand side miners, but the middle is not. So what happens is, as the middle does not have enough hot air, it needs to spin the fans faster. Also, the chip's temperature goes up, and because of that, we're having a higher load being put on those panels. Those 600 amp panels also need to be, some of them need to be put to sleep. Some of the miners need to be put to sleep on those 600 amp panels. So we got to do the same thing as we did for that gear over there. right? You see that gear right over there? It's open doors. We got to do the same thing for this gear over here, but we have to do basically the same sleep. We have to put it to sleep at, say, 80 degrees, put it to sleep at 85, 90, 95, and so on. So that's the situation here. Now, the fix. I'll tell you guys how to fix this. So, for our future 2 containers that are going to be going online here in the next 2 months, what we did was we created 6 rows instead of 5. We have 5, we're going to have 6. The container is longer. Instead of 40 feet, it's 53 feet. So that allows us more room. Now, the panels are going to be placed in such a way where we have one panel and then immediately we have louvers. Then we have another panel, and we have more louvers. Then we have another panel, we have more louvers. So that way the louvers, the intake, is spread out evenly and all the miners get enough air. Also, we have 6 rows, so and a longer container, so we could fit a megawatt in there no problem. We actually have some room left over. So we have plenty of airflow. The container's really long, and that will solve basically the whole problem. So in the next summer, it should be ready. Actually, it'll be ready in 2 months, but I mean by next summer, I mean by next summer we'll actually can measure some results, because by the time these two containers go online, it's going to be pretty much winter time. So we can't really test out what the load is during the summer. But based on this setup here, I would highly, highly, highly predict that most likely the miners are going to run just fine. They're going to be running at 90 degrees. I don't need to put anything to sleep. They're going to run perfectly. The load on the amps is not going to go up at all. It's going to basically stay the same because there's so much airflow, it's fine. The only thing that I'd be worried about is when it gets really hot, like 100 degrees, because then at 100 degrees, you're pretty much looking at, like, you don't really have a choice. It doesn't really matter how much airflow you're giving your miner. If it's 100 outside, your miner might have some issues. You know, it might need to be shut off for a couple hours. You'll be basically like at the peak, at the max temperature. You'll be running the chips at like 90 degrees, 90 Celsius, I mean. So for those of you who know what to run them at, you know, maximum is 95 Celsius. You'll be running about 90, which is very, very close to a shut-off stage for the miner. So that would be the situation for the next 2 containers. So that's how you solve it. But as of right now, this is how we solve hot temperatures. We just put things to sleep. It's not a big issue. It only takes a short amount of time. What I mean by that is by, let's say, 1 p.m., you turn off, you know, 10 miners. That's out of 560, you turn off 10. That's not a lot. It's a very small amount. And then you turn them back on at like 7, 8 p.m. So you have 10 miners sleeping for like 6, 8 hours a day, only when it gets to a certain temperature, which for us, that's 78 degrees is when we start turning some things, or start putting some miners to sleep. So yeah, I hope you guys liked the video. This video is kind of very detailed. And for you guys building out containers, things to keep in mind. So if you guys have anything to share, make sure you leave some comments, right? If you're building out a farm, building out some containers, you have your own little experience, your own little nuances you wanted to share, make sure you leave some comments. Of course, hit like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hope you guys liked the video, and that's going to be it for this one. Until next time, bye.